Hi everyone, can we start to get seated? Let's start. Let's head over to down. I'd like to thank our hosts, AKQA, who volunteered to host this event very generously. It's a beautiful venue, so let's all get together and thank them. I'd also like to thank our sponsors. Gigaspace and the Stack Store and PagerDuty who also generously supported the event. They're also going to be our ignited speakers tonight. We're going to start out with these great talks to keep it light and fun. It's 3 short talks, less than 10 minutes. You have something short and sweet and interesting. So that's what we're going to start off with, but first I'd like just to invite our hosts to say a few words about AKQA. So Chris Marsh, invite us.
Thanks very much. Good evening. And welcome to AKQA. It's great to have you guys here. Enjoy the pizza. Oh, don't look me. Yeah, so I work in the technology department here at AKQA. We're a creative technology company. We've got about 1,600 people worldwide, about 13 offices. We've got about 400 people in this office here, of which about 75 are in the technology department. We have a broad range of clients, so we've got clients like Audi America, where we run a platform, and I know at least some of you guys are intimately familiar with that platform. We've also got our gaming clients, so this is much more about short-term campaigns. So in terms of DevOps, we've got very different functions that we run, keeping large-scale platforms, lots of automation, continuous delivery, through to the main focus being bootstrapping projects. So I moved here quite recently, about 7 months ago from London. I do see a difference in the way that DevOps seems to be done in the places that I've worked in London to here, and I find it very interesting. Which is one of the reasons I'm looking forward very much to hearing these talks from these good people here. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you again and welcome to AKQA, and I'll hand over to
First speaker. Thank you so much. I'd like to invite the first speaker up. It's going to be Corey Cohen from Gigaspace. He's going to talk about changing organizational culture with a funny use case.
Hi, everyone. My name is Eric. So what Sharon didn't tell you about the class is that the funny fact is the slides have to roll every 50 seconds. So auto roll. That creates a few awkward situations. But anyway, so I want to talk about changing organization. I'm not sure about from kind of a different perspective, not really technical. So this is me. This is what I do. This is what I love doing. This is what I do mostly in the weekends. And almost every weekend I live in Israel. It's kind of a nice country to do mountain biking. So every Saturday I'm there doing that. But I'm also a full-time dad. This is my 3 kids. Right now they're 8, 5, and 2. And I'm heading the product Gigaspace, so we have 2 products. That's quite a handful of things to do. And I thought, this is what the traffic looks like until in the morning. And on a good day, I usually spend an hour and a half to 2 hours on the road. So I thought, I love doing, I love riding my bikes. Takes so much to get work, so let's combine things and let's get to work on money, right? The problem is that Israel is my country, and this is what it looked like after an hour's ride. And it wasn't raining that day, so I needed a place to wash off, right? Because I'm working with people, and and I'm not the kind of guy that can use wipes to do that. That's kind of like this food is too expensive for that. So you're talking about DevOps. So it is, I promise you. So the change I was trying to push in the organization is that more people ride their bikes, and for that we needed the shower. So I used to deal with this guy, right? So he gave a great talk at Velocity, I think the first or the second Velocity conference, and he actually came up with a few rules or guidelines to change organizational culture. So I decided to follow those rules and try to change organization. So the first thing I think, this is a helium pressure shower I found on Amazon for $900. We didn't have a shower, and there was no kind of shower being built at that time. So what I did is I bought the shower, I installed the curtain in one of the porches, and I filled it up, and that's how I took a shower. Okay. The second thing is to create champions, right? So this guy was the first non-skeptic guy to see me ride to work every day. So I kind of adopted the thing. I invented the shower. Go ahead, man, free, you can use it. The third thing I did is to use metrics. So, you know, I lost a few pounds from that perspective, and actually argued with the CEO what's going to be the added value if more people came to work on bike. And it turns out 80% like people that are actually fit are away from work for less than 80% of the time than people that are not fit. This is not your CTO, so he's here. And the porch that I showered in is his, so we kind of built. I printed a whole lot of stamps in the office and made people understand that you know, I'm taking a shower on his porch, and that's why I help people get aware of that. And bottom line, you know, it took a lot of time. My CEO are really kind of scrolling too fast. My CEO, when we were finding things, we built a shower. That's what it looks like. So now the lessons I learned from that process. So first one, you'll run into a lot of skeptics. I can't tell you how many eyebrows we were kind of raised every morning I was walking past the hallway. So just ignore them. Just ignore them. There always going to be something that's going to say, you know, bad thing about what you do, or going to be skeptic. The second lesson, it takes time. I think the first time I started talking about shower was around 3 years ago, and it took like a year and a half or 2 years to do that. And from the time I started doing this helium pressure shower thing, it took 6 months, but eventually we got a shower. The third lesson is that you have to take the small step at a time. So you know, start small. You know, with the helium pressure shower, the porch on the side, so no one sees you, and then kind of tell people about it, so they're convinced. Be prepared to improvise. Okay, I never knew what a helium pressure shower is until I kind of looked for a solution. I said, how the hell can I take a shower here? And then I found this. And time management sponsor. That's very, very important. In my case, it was the CEO, so he was kind of convinced. He told me, you do it for 3 or 4 months. I'm gonna sponsor a shower for you. That's what made the change. So this is all true regardless of the change you're trying to push. If it's a shower, if it's I don't know, changing, unifying teams, breaking the barriers, it's the same thing. It's all those rules. They're going to always work, and that's why it's the same thing.
Excellent, thank you. Great. So we have Steve from PagerDuty up next.
Okay, don't worry, I'll be doing the automatic advancing of slides, and I've got years, and I've got Dilbert comics as well. But I just want to give you a little background. I worked there for about 3 years, and we work with companies big and small. And one of the things I find most frustrating is DevOps is actually, by and large, a small company title. The average DevOps person works at a company that's complete ballpark figure, about a quarter or a third size the average software engineer. And I find that kind of frustrating. So one of the other things you should know is that we are exposed to every ops company, good and bad. So up here, I've got a list that I call my favorite list of all bad things I've seen. I want to fix them. So what I really want to do is I want to empower this audience to move beyond saying DevOps is philosophy, right? Yes, this is true. It's helpful. It's nice to know. But every company is selling velocity. Your accounting software is saying it's going to speed up your HR department. Velocity is overrated. So let's look at 4 new keywords that we can use to convince execs and enterprises to buy into DevOps. So I'm going to talk about alignment, auditable, risk reduction, and recruiting. And there's an easy way to remember them: RO. Okay. Yes. Okay. All right, comment on. I actually like the icons to make the talk slower. So the most important thing is alignment, right? This is actually one of the hardest things that executives do at companies. They try to make sure that everybody's incentives are aligned so that you're all rowing in the same direction. And they look at this audience, and what they see are two groups of people who look exactly the same, from their perspective, do exactly the same audience, or do exactly the same job, and hate each other. There's no reason in their minds why dev people or developers and operations people should hate each other. Because from their perspective, we're all doing the same thing, because the only environment that makes any money is production. And the only thing that makes any money on production is features. So code and deploying in production, in their mind, are very obviously the same thing. So DevOps is our way of saying we need to get better alignment, right? So instead of fighting about deploying, you're fighting about them and Emacs and spaces. And that's important to know. Yeah, so basically, DevOps, if you want to break it down even from alignment, you're talking about accountability and empowerment. If you can break it, you can fix it. If you can learn to, you can fix it. Right? These are normal, common sense things that even somebody with an MBA can understand. These are obviously good things. And this is actually how we get our velocity. Right? Alignment and velocity are basically the same as how we're people that you're hiring. And now here's where I'm going to go up on a quick little aside against one of the worst anti-patterns that I see, and I'm blaming you guys for this. If it can wake you up, if it can alert you, you need to have some control about how you monitor it. Right? Even within DevOps, there needs to be we need to get a little bit better about configuring our systems. So the next word I'm going to talk about, this is another one that companies love, is auditable, right? I remember I was embarrassingly recently, I learned all the wonder that is source code, right? And if I can do, actually, if anyone here is not using source code properly, just leave. There's nothing in this talk or any subsequent talk that's half as important as source control. This is the most wonderful thing ever. And the idea that your infrastructure should also be in source code is fantastic, right? If you have a paper network diagram on the wall somewhere, it's wrong. Right? You need to know what's wrong with your boxes, right? Who's vulnerable to what exploit, why you did it, when it happened, and who's the person who knows how to fix it. Auditability is awesome, and companies love it. They love it almost as much as they love risk reduction, right? Every person who's trying to convince their company to switch over to DevOps is being completely beaten down by somebody who has some useless piece of business software where they're paying a gigantic maintenance contract that's more than whatever you're asking for. So what you're going to have to do here is less of a magic word and more of a boring, arduous task. You need to put more meetings. You're going to need to talk about how what you do in terms of good DevOps reduces risk. And the things you're probably going to want to talk about are what do we do? What are we vulnerable to? What should we be doing? And my favorite words are, how do we assess our vulnerability if we can't fix a security problem for a week? And then the last thing that I'm really excited about that DevOps gets for you, and it's especially important here, is recruiting, right? Good people want to work with good tools are DevOps. Simple as that. And actually, the message that I want to get across, and I have a lot of these points seem very obvious, is that if you're dealing with a system that enhances alignment, is more auditable, reduces risk, and helps you recruit people, you're just doing good ops. I realize that's how you think of it, but the goal that we want to get across is that good ops is DevOps. That's the same thing. Look at that, I'm underway time. So let me know who works. I'm open to compliments, complaints, mostly complaints, comments. There's my email address. There's my Twitter. Thank you.
Thank you. And our last Ignite, Evan Powell from Stackstorm. Come on up.
Okay, so Stackstorm, we actually open sourced our product, our code in about 2 weeks. So I'm going to keep this really brief, but I'm going to talk to you about why, using some pretty cool, hopefully funny photos. Why? Look, another tool, another DevOps tool. Surely you've got to be joking. So yeah, in terms of feedback, etc., you can find us on Freenode, on IRC there. So here's an example of automation. All right. So the story here is somebody needed to protect their dog. Right. Their dog was being persecuted by raccoons. That actually happens to me. And so this is a built-for-purpose automation solution. And at 2 a.m., the galaxy interfered. No, sorry. At 2 a.m., they heard a racket and they're like, holy shit, I got to respond to this event. Maybe it's, I don't know, it's pager duty that woke them up, but anyway, something woke them up and they found the dog in the automation. Okay, so automation has a fraught history these days, at least that's our experience. And so what do? You write software to help make your automation more intelligent. And we've met with a lot of folks, probably not as many as PagerDuty, but let's say 150 operators from banks through the eBays, AWS's, etc. And I'd like to summarize their architecture. I don't know, Rube Goldberg, right? So this is an alarm clock. The first thing is the early bird catches the worm, and then from there, eventually, you get woken up. There is a lot of automation out there that ties together point automation solutions that itself is supposed to be helping you, but instead, itself is a real pain in the ass to troubleshoot and to understand clarity tying together these point solutions. That's what StackStorm is about. Here's our architecture. This is you for your environment. It's Legos. And this is us. We are the wire. Ties your Legos together. So I don't know, it's better than glue, right? I could have said it's glue, but glue is like the evil, the enemy in the Lego movie. So that is StackStorm in short. We tie together your environment. Pick your environment. We have rules engines, the ability to do long duration automations, the ability to hopefully learn from these automations through the magic of audit and collaboration. This isn't actually a funny drawing, so I'm just going to push ahead and say, find us. StackStorm, open sourcing in a couple weeks, and thanks a lot.
Thank you, Vivian. So thank you very much to our three sponsors who helped them have such a great event. All the food and fresh sponsors.
Thank you, Sharon, for organizing it.
It's now my pleasure and honor to invite the authentic and real J.G. Kim, author of the Phoenix Project extraordinaire.
I'm just curious, how many people here were at the DevOps Enterprise conference? Oh, cool. Great. How many people weren't? So I have 4 thoughts I'd love to share with you. By the way, hey, thank you so much for hosting us and allowing us to have our after party here at this beautiful facility. Thank you for those of you who are at the DevOps Enterprise Conference. Thank you again. So I guess I have 3 observations of why behind why the DevOps Enterprise was so important to me, and then maybe some reflections on the DevOps Enterprise event. Does that work for you? Yeah. Basically, one is I want to show you kind of where the sense of moral wrongness or the justice came from, right? This is the downward spiral that happens in every technology organization, independent of company size, independent of business vertical, without unchecked, without something like DevOps, results in horrendous outcomes. And I think the genesis of this downward spiral, is because of what Ward Cunningham said 15 years ago. It's called technical debt. And he framed it poetically. The technical debt is what you feel the next time you want to change. So back then they talked about just code issue, right? But we all know that it's not just code, right? It's infrastructure too. And so it's like technical debt. It's all that crap in the data center, piles up over decades, each time made with the promise that we're going to fix it. We have a little bit more time, right? But of course, there's never enough time. So this is all bad. This is as bad as this, right? So, but this is actually good, right? Compared to like, thank goodness this is hardware, right? It's like how does it do configuration line, right? So because it works with everything's software, and so so when this happened, right? Horrible things happened, and one every individual project you have one cycle time production, right? Which means more outages, more bad outcomes, but there's a more insidious down spiral that happens. which is that deployments are taking longer, right? Deployments takes a day, it takes a week, then 2 weeks, then a month. I've had first-hand experience of a deployment. It was a $6 billion a year display ad serving business, and it took 6 weeks to do deployments. It tied up 300 to 400 ops people and test people, right? No developers. Executes 1,500 manual, very error steps. By the way, everyone knew for years that it was going to end. It was a house of cards, and like December 20th, 2007, they did sequence 2 steps. They did a data schema change before the application change, or vice versa, right? And the revenue pipeline broke. Something like 6 terabytes of transactions got stuck in the pipeline, right? And they couldn't roll back. So it took 2 weeks over the holidays, right? Of people trying to figure out how not to lose revenue transactions. In my mind, they came this close to actually having finance reporting here, right? Because they didn't know how much revenue they had. It was about 6 terabytes worth of revenue, but they didn't know how many, in dollars, how much revenue they had, right? So it was a very close call. And so when that happens, when that snowball keeps getting bigger, right? So where you have the seeds of nature child warfare between DevOps and your dev developer, checking code in production, maybe 5 years in the parking lot, they go home. That realizes that this is an entire data center fire, right? Then when they get escalated to the morning, they're already totally plowed, right? There's nothing more dangerous a developer than an intoxicated developer and angry ops. This is what these sophisticated developers. Paul, so I can see, and so this is what gives a sense of hopelessness and despair, right? This feeling that, that we really tried to capture with these projects, the feeling of being trapped in a system, that fear of its failure, we're powerless to change outcomes, and that the feeling that everyone downstream in development is being damaged by the system. I just, so you know, right now, thanks to this, I love all this talk about InfoSec. This thing is like, this is John Foreman. He's one of my longtime buddies. He's from security space and SEC Sonatype. He helped use frame these words of hopelessness and despair, right? They did research finding that the level of burnout in InfoSec, and I think it's absolutely true for us as well, was off the charts, higher than first responders, higher than physicians in ER, higher than even health for the military, right? Why? Because we're downstream. We have to pay consequences, right? And we have very limited ability to fix cause. So my top 4 lessons. So that's kind of the framing of what we'll see that we saw happening around 2006. My top 4 lessons are thus. Lesson number 1 is, I was enthusiastic about DevOps. I think that what we found after benchmarking 14,000 organizations, 2 years, is that the business value of doing DevOps is even higher than we thought. So we worked with public labs, Jez Humble, Dr. Nicole Forsgren, who is the chair of the Lisa conference in the month, where I swear, CF Engine was born, right? Lisa. So we found that high performers were massively, tremendous outperforming their peers. 30 times more frequent deployments, lead time is 8,000 times faster. They can go, how can they go from code committed to test setup to scrum, deployment started, deployment finished, successfully run production. High performance can do minutes. Take months versus minutes. So not only were they doing more work, but they were getting far better outcomes. So they had, when they did their production change, when they did a production change, code deploy or environment deploy was twice as likely to succeed. And once things blew up, because Murphy doesn't exist, they were 12 times faster in storm service. Right? So service parallels was down, so security reach, 12 times faster. And the reason why this is so cool is that this whole notion of diversity shows that you can go fast and be more reliable at the same time. So it's finding, and then this whole notion which Nicole Forsgren talked about, right? This is so beautiful. It's high performance, twice as likely. Not only high performance, but great IT performance. It's measured by deployment frequency, lead time, change success rate, mean time repair. They're twice as likely to succeed profitability, market share, productivity goals. And for those 1,300 organizations that gave a stock symbol, when you look at their market cap growth for 3 years, there's a 50% higher market cap growth. And on one hand, it's absurd, but on the other hand, it's like, those organizations as a value creation mechanism and customer acquisition vehicle increasingly is 100% reliant on IT, of course they're going to win in the marketplace over those who don't. So that's why, you know, this DevOps is not just for the unicorns, but it's for the horses. Jeff Gallimore was one of our friends. That was Brandon Williams, former market security RSA, now off doing other things. He says, yeah, this whole unicorn horses, wrong term, like, these are thoroughbreds. And I'm like, that's cool. Anyway, so that's number one, right? The left brain says, yes, DevOps is good, right? But we know that that's not sufficient. You know, there's a hearts and minds aspect to that as well. So the lesson really is that DevOps is as good for dev as it is for ops. And what I love, my favorite story about how DevOps changes lives is the Facebook chat story. Just one whole sort of glance, I didn't really understand the significance of it. And briefly, what the Facebook chat story was, it was one of the largest technical undertakings at Facebook. It took a year to do, Erlang, PHP, Erlang, chat server. Pretty easy to write when it's 10 people, like I wrote as a sophomore undergraduate. Pretty hard when it's like 90 million users, right? Or when it's cubed, the single implementation. So for a year, not only the team was checking code with trunk, whatever was in trunk, they promoted in production 3 times a day. So what was amazing was that not only were they doing continuous deployment delivery, they were using every Facebook user session as a test market. They were sending global chat messages to the backend servers, invisible to the customer. And so when a year later, when they announced it to the world, right, they went from 0 users to 70 million users overnight without hitch. Why? Because they were testing production, right? And so just to frame like how so many things that I thought was actually wrong, because I thought testing in production was immoral. Like that's what bad developers did because they hate ops people. It's like, yeah, when you deploy in the middle of the day, it means that you don't have to do deployments on Friday night at midnight or all weekend. You can do them in the middle of the day or normal hours like everybody else. So how awesome is that? It was very awesome, right? and so Nathan Schmidt was here, and it was interesting. People say the most interesting thing that were on the back of my head. He said, and for running things, you know that to me. It shows everyone in our organizations that we need DevOps to make our lives humane. In my past, in my career, I worked every holiday, on my birthday, on my spouse's birthday, and even on the day my son was born. And so any decent human being, when they hear that, it's like, that is so bad, right? So if we need those systems, right, it's like we are people, right? And maybe sometime in our career, we might have been creating those systems, and we've been an enabler for those systems. And I think that's sort of frames these sense of, I'm not saying, yeah, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to undo. So, but here's the reciprocal, right? Because so I don't want to, I think it's impossible to overstate. I think the industry fear we have, like people talk public shelf statement, right? It means everyone's jobs are going to go away. Just like in the 1980s when it was manufacturing, it was revolutionizing manufacturing. There was tremendous angst in the workforce, right? As they might be becoming relevant. But there's another, like in any troubled marriage, there's usually a symmetry, right? You have unhappy ops people, you might even have unhappy dev people. And so their fear is that we did not become a developer to wear a pager. That's for the ops guys, right? I'm not a developer to wear a pager. So the alternate narrative that was mentioning that is far more satisfying comes from the same position. He's a director of operations engineering, and he said, as a career-long developer, the most satisfying part of my career was when I got to write the code, push it into production myself, which I just think was immoral. But get to see the faces with the customer when it worked, and see their angry shaking fists when it didn't. Instead of opening a ticket and having someone else do it, when I could have done it far faster, probably even done a better job. Right? So I think that in most technology organizations, the fun has been taken out of technology work. Over the last decade, this is what comes back. It's a choice to really do flow. So, I think what's so cool though is that, when increasingly DevOps, both have, DevOps should we have common values, common practices. But it also exposes that we're both engineers. I love the fact that increasingly also we're using the same terminology as development. Right? In fact, where DevOps come from, the prerequisite practices are continuous versioning, continuous build, continuous test, continuous integration, delivery, and deployment. And in fact, one of the most shocking findings that came out of the DevOps survey practice this year. So if you look at what was a single behavior that was the highest predictor of performance, whether it was measured by change success rate, defect repair, deployment frequency, lead time, it was whether ops use version control. In fact, whether ops use version control was a better predictor of performance than whether dev used version control. And by the way, isn't that amazing? So can anyone speculate why, how could this be a higher predictor than whether dev uses version control? What? Is this, yeah, absolutely, right, this is the environment. Yeah, right, could be, yeah, right, absolutely, that works.
It's closer to the customer.
It is as close to the customer as dev, and in fact, the surface area certainly is more, yeah. And the one that I love is this. If you count the number of configurable settings, there are actually more configurable settings in the environment than there are in the code. Right? So anyone who's done like an ERP migration, code push, right? In general, like when you do a code migration from dev to test or test to prod, it's rarely a code issue, it's usually an environment consistency issue. Right? And so I think it kind of explains why version control is so important. It's a mutual accountability. So I thought that was very cool. Just maybe as a to share like one of the neatest kind of aha moments I had. I was at the Ruby Developer Conference in Salt Lake City last year, and there was a guy from Chef talking. He was talking about using, essentially using cucumber tests, right? Unit tests basically enforce the correctness of the environment. And it was the strangest, it was like this most unsettling moment, right? Because he had the Eclipse IDE open. He was showing unit cucumber test scripts, right? He was using language like developer, and I felt like, if I closed my eyes and just listened, this person could have been at Java 10 years ago, right? But yet, this is an ops person. So that was a really, that's the same people. Okay, so, part number one, DevOps support two is DevOps humane. There's a third part, right? So it's not just technical practices, it's not just about benchmarking. There's this other thing missing. Just to frame how it's need for trust management. So I was on a call with Jess Humble and John Alsbaum, and it was like one of the most unsettling 90 minutes of my life, and it led to what I could only describe as a 6-week period of existential despair. And it was so unsettling because it questioned some of my core beliefs, especially coming from information security and from our background. And so what we're talking about was the net capital failure, or as John Alsbaum call it, the net capital accident, 15-minute deployment error that caused a $440 million trading loss. And what they convinced me of was that the sort of low trust command and control counters that especially these auditors are trained in place almost certainly preordain the increased likelihood of the disaster happening again and being worse. So here's the logic. One is there's two typical narratives of why the net capital failure happened. One is due to change control failure, and the other one is due to a testing failure. I think they're both absolutely valid in change control failure. I can skip it, right? It's like, oh yes, I know people will say, yes, we need one more have with better change control processes and prevented detected quickly, and certainly with better testing, right? Could have prevented detected correctly. But here's the problem: the typical low trust command and control, change control countermeasures. I want another 60-word field in the change request field is enough. It's now 500 words, and we need one more level of signing approval necessary, by one more higher level of management for change, right? And so what we know from 100 years of research is that the larger the distance between the person making the decision to do the work and the person doing the work, the worse the outcomes. And increasingly, as the work is more complex, the only person who should be making that decision is the person actually doing the work, right? Knowledge of the edges. It's like, now, not as bad as the second part. You know, the typical testing countermeasure is do more testing. And if there's any element of manual testing, it means you have to do deployments less often, right? To do more testing, you deploy less frequently. And we now know through research, right, is that the greater the deployment interval, the lower the change success rates, the higher the weekend repair. And I was like, oh shit. So like this is terrible, right? Like everything I believed in is wrong, right? So what is the right countermeasure? We gotta do deployment frequently, fully empower the person to do work, to decide when, how, whether to do the work. And so I think that's a tough sell, right? The management here is to be, let me get this straight. You have screws before in the past. Now you want to do it more frequently with less supervision. But I had the first time I ever heard it, and I never want to hear it again. And so what we found in the research was that this was validated, and we find that the third highest predicted performance was how organizations answered this question. This is called the Western Organizational Technology Model. In healthcare, they found the highest linkage between patient safety and was organizational culture. So low trust looks like this. We hide information, we shirk responsibility, we discourage bridging between teams, we cover failures. Why? Because best way to bad your shot. And we crush new ideas. And then on the other extreme, we have what high trust culture stuff. This is we actually see train messengers to tell bad news, share responsibility outcomes, which requires us to bridge between teams. When failure happens, it causes genuine sense of inquiry. And well, you know, like it's like chaos, right? So, yeah, if the problem were easy, we would have done it already. Right? So, how organizations answer this, was the third highest predictor of IT performance and organization performance. God, so cool, right? So, Jez was just jumping over the saw this. All right, so, and then also four, right? Is DevOps not for this uniforms, of course, it's for the forces as well, right? Because they're both the same. I think that was really, I think, some of the motivation to do the DevOps Enterprise Conference was to show that the journey of the horse is as heroic and as technologically magnificent and miraculous as any story that you would hear on Google, Amazon, Etsy, Netflix, sorry. And I think the stories that we heard over the last few days are amazing, right? It's the nationwide system of record for the most critical retirement plan systems on a mainframe. We heard the CSG mainframe story. I mean, it's just transcendental technology industry verticals of the size. So I wrote down 3 reflections I had. So what was the method behind the madness behind the conference? I think it kind of boils down to these three things certainly informed kind of the way we need to do conference. And by the way, for those of you who weren't at the DevOps Enterprise Conference, all the videos will be posted online. Most of them will be posted online next week, and the rest will follow sometime later. So one of my favorite quotes I use a lot. I use a lot just because it's one of the life philosophies I believe most. It's kind of one of the biggest learnings I've had over the last 5 years. Is that you're only as smart as the average of the top 5 people you hang out with. Right? So the first time I heard that, I'm actually like, oh no, it's like, oh, this is terrible, right? Peer group is one of the top predictors of outcomes. And so, when I thank the program committees, like I'm so grateful for their help. Right? Because we couldn't have done that without, people like, just unbelievable conference. So many people who are here in this room. The other thing I want to share is that when you hang out with like the smartest people in the game, right? When you come to like the meetups around Kindred Spirits, I think when you can hang out with say the level 30 death mages and the level 30 paladins, right? Even if you're only a level 14 thug, right? Maybe things happen, right? You never get invited to the level 30 quests, right? Unless we hang out with level 30 people, right? That's way to get there to do that. And then I think that one of the also delighted to see here in the Ignite talks where, although I think you guys are suicidal maniacs. I did one Ignite talk, DevOps Days 2011, the most terrifying experience of my life. If John Willis were here, he would have insisted on doing one, and Josh Corman is one as well. Anyway, so boundary spanning. I'm not sure the more boundaries that you span, I think the more valuable that you become as people. Right? So if you can span DevOps, that's awesome. Right? But you have to just get the InfoSec space, audit compliance, change management, that organizational change management, right? Culture. Right? I think the more of those skills you get, right, the more vast and more value becomes. So one of the things I was so delighted about the DevOps Enterprise Conference were how many security people were there, right? And then I was like delighted that, hey, you're probably sitting next to Josh Corbett, right? And when you are a boundary spanner, you can actually help other people in even more ways. So I think those are the conditions that create like an awesome community practice where our ability to help each other, goes up significantly. So that's kind of the that's what I was so happy about the DevOps Enterprise Conference. I think that concludes my prepared remarks. Thank you so much. And I guess, Nate, there's not many questions on the DevOps Enterprise thing. Otherwise, let's have some drinks. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for coming. Feel free to have some more beers. I just want to say that I run the meetup group, and I'm always looking for technical talk and content. You do some Ignite again, you do whatever it is you're into. Please do reach out to me through the group. We're on Twitter, Shadow1Z. I'm always happy to get more content, and I'd love to get you guys on stage. Thanks.
So much better than mine.
No.
I'm glad that you're driving home the source control point.
I heard it's true. It's like a broadcast. Oh, he's turned around. You're the last minute.
Oh, yeah.